Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Authenticity Journey, a human capital forum in private wealth and private capital. Co hosting with me, we have Marlon Bermudez.
Hello and welcome.
And today's guest is Lisa LaFrance. Lisa is CEO of the LaFrance Project, and she is a connector. She's helping reshape the community and philanthropy, and we're very excited to have her. Lisa, welcome to the Authenticity Journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I love having these conversations. One of the things I love most about it is the authenticity journey. So I didn't have to prepare anything. I just showed up as I am, and that's a wonderful place to be.
Yes. Thank you for coming into this podcast as your authentic self, as you always are. Lisa is extremely popular in Palm Beach, so if you're in the area, you know her for a fact. Lisa, can you share a little bit more about yourself and the LaFrance Project? What is it that you are working now? Your story?
Absolutely. So it is a project. I think we landed on that name about a year ago, and I think it's actually quite appropriate because we're trying to actually change the way philanthropy is done in Palm Beach County. The big goal is to get more money into the nonprofit ecosystem in Palm Beach County. And there's a lot of reasons why the money stays on the sidelines. And what I can do is just share my own personal experience. And, I think a lot of times great business ideas are kind of born out of a problem that you yourself are struggling with. And so when I moved to Palm Beach County, I had retired from investment management. We can talk a little bit more about that since this is a wealth capital podcast as well.
Yes.
But when I retired and I moved to Palm Beach County, I wanted to get involved in nonprofit work. I wanted to connect to some wonderful people doing wonderful things in the community. But there's thousands of nonprofits in Palm Beach County. And back then, this was 2014, there really weren't, at least that I knew of, any resources to learn about the nonprofit community. So I really just sat on the sidelines. For 5 years, I worked out, I cooked dinner, I relaxed. It was probably a good 5-year break for me after a big career. But I knew that there had to be something more. And so I was so lucky and thrilled when I learned about this organization called Impact the Palm Beaches. And that was in 2018 when I heard about it from a friend. And she said, it's really just this group of women. Everybody donates $1,000. And then we pool it all together and we give multiple at the time it was one $100,000 grant to a local nonprofit. And there's a whole vetting process. We have a grant committee. We review letters of intent, and then we go on to full proposals and site visits. And then all the members get to vote based on a presentation that's given at our big final awards ceremony on who gets the $100,000. So to me, that was such an exciting idea. One, a way that I could learn about the nonprofit community, because I said the first thing I want to do is get on that grants committee so I can read all these proposals and really see what's happening. The second thing, though, that I thought is, why do we only have 150 members here in Palm Beach County? Now, actually, to be fair, there's a South County chapter and a North County chapter because Palm Beach County is so large, just even geographically. The South County chapter has almost 800 members. We were started a little bit later, but I thought, gosh, if we could I didn't know about this. This is a visibility awareness problem. And coming from my background in investment management, where I was mainly focused on marketing, I thought this is really something that if we market it strategically, we can, there's no reason this organization can't grow as well. So that's what I became obsessed with from 2018 forward. In the year 2023-24, I was actually president. And that year we reached 396 members, so close to 400, but we were able to give away $396,000. And again, just to go back to the investment kind of terminology and the world that I came from, that's leverage you don't see. When I literally personally felt like my $1,000 turned into almost $400,000 in community impact. So powerful. And I just learned so much in that journey. I'll pause. I could go on, but I'll pause with that.
I mean, that's an incredible, impactful, and powerful story.
Yeah. And Impact is actually a global organization. There are about 80 chapters all over the world. And since it was started probably almost 25 years ago now, they've given away almost $200 million to different communities. And this collective giving idea is really growing. It's actually probably one of the fastest growing parts of philanthropy. And it really democratizes philanthropy. So it's, we think about philanthropists, maybe it seems like a fancy word, and, it's for the rich people, the very, very wealthy people.
Yes.
That's not true. You can do $25 and be part of something and make a difference. So that's the other message I try to get out, is that everybody can be a philanthropist, even just with donating time or whatever it is that they want to give.
Yeah, I did see that you talk about purpose coming before wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you see that? Why is purpose, why does purpose comes first when it comes to wealth, as we're talking about giving?
Yeah. So my own journey was a little bit backwards on that, to be honest. I grew up in the 80s. So I grew up in a zeitgeist of, I don't know if you remember the movie Wall Street, or, the show with Michael J. Fox. It was very much about money in the 80s. And I didn't come from money. So to me, I felt like that was something that was important, was to make a good living.
Right.
I was good at math. I was interested in finance, but I was also interested in psychology. And when I got to college, my advisor said, well, if you do want to make money, you really probably should take an economics track and learn business and go down that road. But I always still loved the human behavior component of it. And so I got very fortunate in that ultimately my career in investment management was with a firm that actually looked at investor behavior and investor, what do you want to call it? Creating inefficiencies because of investors acting irrationally. Right. So we learn a lot about, markets are efficient because everybody's rational. That's not true. People act based on fear or greed and other things that we could actually quantify and take advantage of as investors. So there was a certain psychological element and behavioral element to what I was doing, even when I was doing investing. But that started to go away. Markets have become actually more and more efficient. My career started in the 90s, my hedge fund career in the 2000s. And by 2008, when the market crashed, if you guys all remember that, a lot of these efficiencies had been arbitraged away. And so it really became more about rapid trading and less about fundamentals and psychology. And so I sort of got disillusioned with it. And I was so lucky, I always have to say so lucky, to have found myself at a point where I could actually say I don't need to do this anymore. Right. But then to finding your purpose, what's so interesting is when I look back over my life, there have been, it's like almost like little breadcrumbs. If I see that when I was 8 years old, I wrote a letter I was playing a state attorney, because all 8-year-old girls play a state attorney. Yes. And I was, when I die, I'm going to give my money to this person, and I'm going to give my money to this hospital, and I'm going to give. So like it's always was there.
It's been there within yourself.
And then even, while I was working, I was involved with a Boston-based dance school that did a lot of scholarships for local kids that couldn't have otherwise afforded to be in the school. So I always had some hand in trying to help others. And now it gets to be my whole life. And I am so lucky. I'm blessed. I am happier than I've ever been. Obviously, I'm fortunate that I can do what I do now. But it is truly, I call it the happiness currency. We live through a big part of our lives just making the financial currency, but now I get to have happiness currency.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm trying to get that trending. Happiness currency.
It can be.
It should. There's value, right? At a certain point, how much more money do you actually need? It's time to start thinking about other more important, or not more important, but other things.
Life goes beyond money and status, and giving goes beyond that too. And I think that's what you're talking about, and that's what you bring into the community as you're reshaping the world of philanthropy. How giving it's about purpose. You have to give coming from a place of love, a place of transformation. Money alone will not create an impact and a change in the world.
Right.
But coming from a place of love and happiness currency,
Yes.
as you mentioned, that will definitely bring impact and change.
Yes.
So,
and I had a wonderful privilege on Saturday morning, this past Saturday morning, to speak to about 80 young girls between 12 and 16.
oh, that's adorable.
And, one of the things I said is, what is the point of having money if you don't share it? It's like everything in your life, your experiences. You can go and have all these great experiences, but you
Right.
want to share them with other people, and you want to involve as many people in that experience. I think it makes it so much more powerful and
And
enriched.
it is.
Yeah.
And life is temporary.
That's rich.
Right?
That's what's rich.
Life
is very temporary. I've been thinking about that a lot.
So what do we
lately.
do with everything we have? I mean, it's about sharing. It's about giving, regardless of how much money you have. I mean, I think when we share, we grow. I think more comes. Life changes, and it just feels good. It just it changes. At least when I give. In so many different ways. It could be, financially or just, giving in the sense of empowering others. I think that actually benefits me more than anything. And I think that's what you feel when you give. It transforms you, right?
It's not right. And so in a sense, it's almost selfish. It's like, I don't do this just because I'm like this great person.
Right.
I'm doing this because it makes me feel good.
Right.
And in a way, that's the message I get across as well. And that's why I do a lot on social media, to show people how much fun I'm having and how good this is making me feel. And I kind of call it the when Harry met Sally marketing strategy. Is I want everybody to say, like, I want what she's having, because clearly she's having a good time being a good person. And it's not that hard. And the other thing as you were talking, I was thinking, we're all business people as well. Entrepreneurs are philanthropists. We're doing it in a different way. We give people jobs.
Yes.
So I think there's many ways to influence the world around us. And it can be both in a for-profit or a nonprofit context, frankly. The two combined are really powerful.
And I think there is an overlap between philanthropy, legacy, and impact, specifically when it comes to, and I just thought about this, the most important currency. Well, when we did the event earlier this year in that wealth conference was more on trust. We had a banner saying that trust is the most valuable currency, but that's more in business and also the personal level. But if you just go all the way down to just the core human level, time. If you're giving time to someone else, you could give them $1 million, you could give them a business or a person, doesn't matter. But if you're giving them time, if you're giving them wisdom, that's something you cannot get back. So even if you choose to spend a couple of hours with someone, or if you're mentoring someone, any amount of time that you're giving, that's something that you just invested. And to me, that's one of the things that I enjoy about, mentoring others and just helping, just because you could make a long-lasting impact, and you might not hear from that person for a couple of years, but eventually you could see them rising, or you could see them implementing anything that you might have shared that might have helped them. So I think that's very helpful as well from the philanthropy perspective.
And that's why I loved speaking to these young girls. When people ask me, what is my goal? And simply stated, it is, as I said earlier, to bring more money into the nonprofit sector in Palm Beach County. And trust is a huge part of that. A huge reason people don't give is because there is a lack of trust in the nonprofits and the nonprofit leadership. They're not clear on what they're actually doing. They worry that the CEO is making too much money. I'm here to tell you that most nonprofits I work with, the CEOs are not making hardly any money. But trust is huge in the nonprofit space. And trust comes from information, from having access to real information. So transparency is so important. So I talk a lot to the nonprofits that I work with about put all your financial information right on your website. Why? Yeah. Why not? What are you trying to hide? And different things like that I think of from my business experience, that I think if more nonprofits thought more like business people, the business world would understand what they're doing better and perhaps be more trusting and more willing to jump in with money and talent. And there's so much talent that business people can lend to the nonprofit sector. There's so much need for great board members at our nonprofits. And so anybody that wants to get involved at that level, I mean, we're actually going to run a couple of workshops on that next year so that people can learn with nonprofits can learn how to build a strong board, and then also with the community so that they can learn, what is it that speaks to them and what nonprofits might they be able to align with and help out from a service perspective.
As a connector, how do you build that trust with someone who's donating their money? And how do you know that you can trust that foundation? How much work do you do when you become knowledgeable on that nonprofit?
So what I like to do is a strategy I call give, learn, give again. And I will make small donations initially to the nonprofits that I'm interested in supporting and kind of then see how that dialogue progresses. Now, somebody once said to me, and it's kind of harsh, but I kind of see the point. She said, I write small checks and then I see what kind of thank you letter I get. And to be honest, I don't need to be thanked. I'm not doing this for any kind of recognition. However, if you don't write a proper thank you note, then that tells me something about how you're running your organization. And that is information. And so for all my nonprofit friends out there, and I'm sure many of you I've said it to directly, making sure that you thank your donors is really one of the most important things. So I think, but to your question about trust is really built over time, right? And so I've been doing this now for 6 years. So I think that I've invested in the community with time for myself. I think the community trusts me, but I think I've also built these relationships now over 6 years. The organizations that I support the most are ones that I give to every single month. So a monthly recurring donation is a really, and in perpetuity, I mean, until whatever, is something that I think is very powerful for the nonprofit because that's something they can count on, right? Every year a nonprofit, has to start their fundraising all over again. But if they know they've got people that are just going to be there year after year, month after month, it's really great for them from a planning perspective. But then, as I say, that's how I get to know these people over time as well. And somebody's asked me, and you kind of asked this too, like process, vetting, how do you build trust? Yes. So I have a small questionnaire. I've tried to make it very short, very user-friendly so that people can answer, a handful of questions about what their purpose is, what their mission is, what their big dream is. What I look for a lot is collaboration too. So when I see a certain organization is working with 4 or 5 other organizations that I'm familiar with, that's a good signal to me. I look at there's a database called Cause IQ that actually has a lot of financial and data in it, and that is something that, to me, as a former investor in a hedge fund and a quantitative hedge fund, data is so where I always look to for information. But there's not a lot of data in the nonprofit space. In fact, a couple of years ago, I did not know of a database that I could go in. Let's say, you have a database, you can say, oh, I want to support an arts organization in Palm Beach County. You should be able to type that in somewhere and it all pops up, right? Now, again, we're in AI, so we can talk about that in a minute. But go back 2-3 years ago, before AI was really even a big thing. And I couldn't believe that this did not exist. And I would talk to Community Foundation. I would talk to experts in this field, and they would say, no, it doesn't exist. I learned that Giving Tuesday was working on something, but it was a mess, frankly. Sorry, Giving Tuesday. And then finally, I spoke with somebody about 2 years ago now, expressing this opinion, and she said, no, it does exist. It's called Cause IQ. Nobody knew about it. Again, this is this information vortex that this nonprofit world unfortunately lives in all the time. Now, I then was later speaking to some of my money management friends, and they're like, oh, we use CausIQ all the time for the foundation clients that we want to prospect. But nobody in nonprofit space knew about it.
Wow.
The problem still exists, however, with any kind of data analysis. We learned this in our hedge fund and investment world. Junk in, junk out,
Yep.
right? So it's only as good as the data that's there, and it's only as timely as the reporting is. And time and reporting in the nonprofit sector has a huge lag. I mean, some of the financials which you can access through CausIQ are a couple years old. So it's not always that useful, but it's a start, and it's something that you can then use as a base to then
Right.
go to the nonprofit and say, I need just like your last couple of years of data because it's not populating. But my big now fast forward to here we are in 2025, about to be 2026, and we do have AI. And AI is a game changer. It's a game
Yes.
changer for the nonprofit space, to be honest. Now this information is going to be available.
Is that space actually embracing all
Oh,
the
I'm going to make
innovation and everything? Okay.
It is using it in the sense that because nonprofits are historically, famously understaffed, they definitely can lean into the AI tools to help write grants and things like
Right.
that. And I think that's wonderful. I'm not the person that says, oh, you shouldn't use AI. AI is your partner, right?
Yes,
It's like
yes.
it's only as good as what you ask it to do, and it's only as good as what you finally polish up as your final product. But it takes half the work out of it, at least.
Oh, it really does.
And so a lot of nonprofits are definitely embracing it from that perspective. But I'm curious and interested to see how donors start embracing it. So, and how nonprofits use it to understand their donors better. So there are a lot of databases out there as well that nonprofits use to say, oh, what's this person's giving capacity? Let's just call it what it is.
Right.
I mean, it's a wealth. What's their wealth status? So I looked at one of these databases once, and of course I looked myself up. I was like, oh, what they're going to say about me. Their algorithms are not very good either. They base a lot of it on your real estate, and then they take a multiplier factor. And so for somebody like me, who frankly lives beneath my means, it's like they had it all wrong. And I was speaking to somebody else in the space over the summer, and I said, what we need to know is that delta, right? It's the person that lives beneath their means versus what their means actually are, because those will probably be the people that are the most generous.
That's true.
So some of that is, also not great, but improving because of AI. So I'm working not directly with, but I'm actually be speaking with this young man in January. He's a Harvard grad. He's in his 20s. He's created something called Donor Atlas. And what he's doing with AI is taking some of this publicly available information that shares and gives insight into wealth and that sort of thing, but also scrubbing things like social media to find, if I was at an event for Digital Vibes, then that's going to pop up. And I think, mentioning a specific charity as I just did, I think donors need to share what they're doing more. That's another one of my big objectives. And I'm working on a very interesting project on that in the next year. If every donor shared who they were giving money to, like there's information in there for me to understand.
Right.
If I see somebody I really respect as a philanthropist or a foundation or a corporate entity that gives, making donations, that's good to know. And we used to use tools like that even in investment management. Like, where's the smart money going? You know what I mean? And
But
then,
are they not sharing to keep some level of privacy?
yeah, for sure. And I respect that. But I think that we all have to start asking ourselves, what is our true goal, right? Are we really trying to change the world? Are we really trying to end some of these social
Right.
problems? And if we are, we've got to kind of back out of the ego part of what we're doing, the privacy protection part of what we're doing.
That's true.
And really, that's how we can ultimately make the biggest difference.
That's
so,
true.
Yeah. And it's starting. And that's the other thing. I'm starting to see some of these things that I've been hoping for that other people are doing and thinking about as well. So I'll give you a little sneak peek into my project that I'm working on for next year. It's actually, I've been working on it this whole
Okay.
year, but we're going to unveil the research next year. Actually, funny enough, it was the woman that introduced me to Cause IQ that I started working with. And her name's Jess Merrill at 1 Degree Impact. She does a lot of nonprofit research. And one of the spaces I was specifically interested in was foster care. And I was interested in it in part because I just wanted to learn more about it. And I didn't feel like I had the tools myself, unlike some of the other nonprofit work I do where I can research through a database and other things. I wanted her to create a research project out of it. So she started by talking to 3 different people in the space, and she spoke to an agency, a funder, and somebody else. This is all a while back now, so I don't remember it all. But the funder was reticent to speak to her. And once she said to her, no, this is really so that we can all come together and figure out some solutions and some actions that we can start to take to really make a difference, that they started speaking to her. And then she came to me after doing these 3 interviews and said, we need to do more of these. We need to do 30 interviews. I need to talk to 30 different people all across the space in government, lived experience, different stakeholders, maybe even somebody that's not in Palm Beach County so I can learn more about what's happening at a national level. And so that's what we've been doing for the last 8 months. But what she also has done, obviously with their permission and awareness, is she taped every one of these conversations. And so all 30 conversations have been, and I have it on my phone, I haven't looked at it yet, fed into an artificial intelligence tool to sort of assimilate and come up with where were there, synergies, where is everybody articulating the same problem and knowing that there is a solution if we all come together. So next year we'll be convening this group of 30 people in person, at least a subset of them, to actually talk about what are these solutions that we've actually been able to come up with through this process, and then we're going to present them to the community and hopefully contemplating doing it in other parts of the social service sector as well. Like, what other problems now could we try to tackle this way? So I'm very excited about that.
Sounds like an exciting one.
Yeah, it's cool, and I just think that it's got broader applications hopefully as well. So AI, I'm here for it.
And the first thing that comes to mind about AI and nonprofits is, how are you seeing AI being incorporated into the nonprofits? Because there is a little bit of limited resources to some degree that they have internally, and they rely on a lot of external resources to be able to operate. But innovation, how are you seeing AI being used currently at the nonprofit level for them to innovate themselves?
Well, I mean, the beauty about AI as it currently exists is it's pretty much free. I mean, anybody can go on ChatGPT or all the other tools. My husband's actually more of an expert in all the different tools than I am, and I know that there are some that are better at some things than others. I mean, I'm hoping that philanthropists like myself will also kind of work in that capacity building space. That's a lot of what I do too is, yes, I'm all about these monthly recurring unrestricted gifts, but if an organization says, I want to spend $10,000 on some new way to innovate, but maybe they often will also say, my board isn't going to approve that, that's where a private donor can come in with a restricted gift for a specific purpose and help them invest in their capacity building. I mean, capacity building to me is so important because not unlike my experience with impact, my experience even as an individual, I can only give so much. But if I can help the nonprofit that I'm working with get more donors, then I've sort of also leveraged my impact that way. So I do that strategically just through working with them, in giving them advice on things, on how to market, but also with those kinds of targeted investments. I haven't invested in an AI tool specifically yet, but again, because I haven't felt like I needed to. It's interesting. There was somebody that came to me with a big AI tool that was to help write grants, and I considered it was actually more about assessing the ROI on a grant. So they would say, okay, you just spent 50 hours writing this grant and you have a 10% probability of getting it. You probably shouldn't be spending your time on it. It was kind of like a time management efficiency tool. I thought it was actually quite intriguing. But in the end, it was too expensive, I thought, for what it was. And I think now we're going to be able to do some of that stuff at a very low cost as things have been evolving in the technology space. So I'm really excited to see how AI levels the playing field without needing a significant investment, frankly. That's the beauty of it right now for the nonprofits, I think.
Yes.
You just have to know how to ask the questions.
And you have to, make it sound more like you.
Right.
You have to adapt it to who you are. And I think as you talk to it, as you speak to it, it starts understanding who you are, how you speak,
Yes.
and what goes well, with your personality.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the beauty of it. That's kind of what I do when I use AI. It's gotten to a point where it knows me.
Right.
So
It's kind of weird.
It keeps our authenticity alive.
Yes.
It's weird, but it does. It gets to know you, how you speak, how you, everything. So it's easier when it's, providing some level of information. So that way you can still remain as your own person and not sound like a robot or not approach things in a way that doesn't resonate with you.
Right. And I love that you brought it back around to that, because I was actually thinking, here we are sitting here on a podcast about authenticity and we're talking about AI, but really we can embrace AI and still remain authentic for sure.
We all do.
Absolutely. We know people's real.
Yes,
you can see it.
Yes. You can see it and you can tell. And you don't have to it's just like when you're sending an email, you don't have to just copy and paste. But if you need some level of assistance, you can still use AI. And then you can, shift things and adapt to your own person. But a lot of people, they just write something, they copy and paste, and you see all the dashes and everything. So, okay, you're not even putting work into that. At least put some work in, so that it's you. It's not... But it does help. It's very, very, very helpful. It saves us a lot of time and it it improves our communication.
Absolutely.
But just like everything, you also have to verify the output. The other day, I simply asked ChatGPT, generate an image for XYZ, and right away it told me I don't have the capability to do that. And I said, I know for a fact that you do. Please go ahead and generate it. And the response was, oh, okay, you got me. And then he went and generated it.
Yeah.
So it's just an example on if we're not verifying the output for accuracy. And then to me, AI like ChatGPT and all those tools is just Google on steroids. It's just a research.
No, we've had AI forever.
Else,
it's just, it's evolved to this new thing. Yeah. Absolutely.
And let's circle back to the microphone.
Oh.
Tell us a little bit the story behind that.
All right. So I'm going to get a little personal. My mom passed away about a year ago. And that's not why I bought the microphone. To be honest, I bought the microphone because I kind of like to do a mic drop every once in a while. I'm kind of, I kind of try to be funny sometimes. So I thought, well, that'll be cool. I'll get a fake mic and I can do mic drops. So the reason I brought up my mom's passing in February of this year, when we did a celebration of life for her, we did it at Table 26, plug for Table 26, but their sound system wasn't working. And so I said, well, guess what? I have this fake mic, because this is not a real mic. I'll just speak into this. And what I noticed was I actually did, even though it's a fake mic, I noticed that I sort of stood taller. I spoke a little bit, projected a little bit more. And after I paid tribute to my mother, we asked all of our guests if they had something they wanted to say, and all of them wanted to take the mic. So I've got all this video of all of my mom's friends and my family, speaking into the mic. And I think obviously it was at that moment that I realized that it wasn't just for a joke, but it was a legitimate tool. I also learned that the top screws off. Now, of course, my first thought was, I could put vodka in there. And I actually have put champagne in here. I had to go to a breakfast that I had to speak at. I put champagne in here, and I had a glass of orange juice at my seat. And after I spoke, I went, okay, now it's time for my mimosa. But seriously, I do use it now for my social media because I can put a wireless mic in here.
Okay.
And then that's how we pick up all of the audio for my social media. But even more powerful is I attended, I was speaking to young girls just the other day, but I also did a workshop with young girls back in May. And the woman that was actually facilitating it, there was one girl, she just didn't want to speak, and we get this, right? I was shy.
Yeah.
We all have our shy
moments.
moments. But we gave her the mic, and she was able to speak.
Oh, nice.
And so I find it's very empowering. What we've started doing when we give them to young girls is we can actually put like words of affirmation inside.
You give them a voice.
And we give them literally a voice. We've got something that we put in here that says, this is for you to amplify your voice. When I spoke on Saturday, I gave several of them out to people for, asking great questions. We've given them away as awards to the Path to College kids when they've presented.
Oh.
I've given them to kids for graduation in their school colors. I mean, it's really, to me, that's the best part of it is what other people get out of it, and other people in the community too. Like you'll see these on a lot of desks in a lot of nonprofit offices.
Okay. I do see it on your podcasts, on your videos, and your social media, and I find it really cool. And you have colorful ones too, different colors.
Oh yes,
I've seen different colors.
I have all different colors.
Yes.
This one I try to match my outfit. I gave away so many of my mics on Saturday.
Right.
This is like I got to go get some more made. So
wow.
but anyway, it's just fun. It's a fun thing. It kind of reminds you not to take things too seriously, you know. And again, we're about happiness currency.
But if you look at it, it's not just fun, but it actually gives people a voice.
It does.
Because even when you're shy, when you're holding a mic, you have to say something. So something comes through, even if it's a thought or a single word. And I think it's life-changing when you get to hear other people's perspective about things or life. I think it changes us. It changes our perception about things, and it also changes them. Because, like you said, when you grab that mic, like you were talking about your mom's celebration of life, when you grabbed that mic, you felt taller, stronger, and you were able to speak. So it does change you. It's that moment where you feel empowered. Okay, I have the mic. This is my time to speak.
That's right.
And so I think it's a great symbolic, but it goes beyond that. It's actually transformational.
Yeah, I'm not going to let it go now.
Right. Yeah, so I love
and it
that.
has to be sparkly.
And I can see when you're talking to those young girls and giving them the mic, it's giving them a voice to express themselves, to remind them of who they are.
Yes.
And it's a very small gesture, but you have no idea how much impact you're actually bringing into their lives, because it's a moment. I mean, I've had my first moment with a mic at some point. You've had your first moment, and it's special. It's a moment that you understand your value. You understand that whatever it is that you're saying brings something of value into the world. And I think you're doing that with the young girls. I just find it really empowering and gentle and beautiful at the same time, if it makes sense.
Thank you.
It's maybe we don't think about, but it's a big deal. It's a big thing, and I'm sure it's changing the way they see themselves.
Yeah, and that's so important if we can help people to express themselves, right? I mean, that's a lot of the nonprofits I work with. That is part of their mission, is especially if they do work with children, and they're we're focusing so much on mental health right now because it's such a struggle for so many right now. And if they, are working with children need to express themselves. All of us need to have that opportunity to express ourselves. But something that both of you have said that I also want to circle back to is the impact that we have in the world is not always known, right? And I get a little corny and goofy sometimes, perhaps, when I talk about one of my favorite movies being It's a Wonderful Life. But we're in the Christmas season, the holiday season. The movie's probably going to be showing 100 times this month. It is really how I think about how we affect others. We'll never really know. I mean, we won't be given the gift that, that the character in It's a Wonderful Life was, to see what the world would be like if you didn't exist. But I think we do somehow in our hearts know that it would be different, and it wouldn't, there'd be some people that probably wouldn't be where they are or who they are if you hadn't crossed paths with them, even in the simplest way, even in giving them a microphone. Which is why, and I was saying this to the girls on Saturday, which is why just being kind as much as possible throughout every, step of your life is so important, because just be nice to people. Tell them, oh, I appreciate you, or, oh, you look pretty today, or that was a great question, or, why not just support everybody in a positive way, because it's easy, it's free, and you don't know what kind of impact that could have on somebody.
If you think about it, we're all connected as humans, right? There's a connection. So everything that we bring into the world is unique, and it does add value. So it's a great reminder when you talk about mental health and the younger generation, or even, our generation, all of us. I think it's great when we remember that whatever it is that we are doing, there is some level of value. We're all doing different things, right? We see life in different ways. We approach life in a different way, but we're bringing value. We're connected. So I think when it comes to mental health, a lot of people, they feel not seen. They feel empty. They feel not seen. And they need that sense of belonging. Like, I need to belong. What can I do to be seen, to feel alive, right? But as you're bringing that reminder of there's value in every individual, every human brings something. The world wouldn't exist. Life wouldn't be, happening the way it is, or things wouldn't be changing, or everything that happens around us. It's because of each one of us.
Right. It's sort of like physics, right? I mean, it's math in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And I love that. I think that you both really live and express that beautifully too. And I was so grateful to be invited to your event that you did. And I think, talking about being connected, which I totally agree. There are a couple of books. Granddaughter of one of my very dear friends, her name is Nikki Ehrlich. She wrote a book called The Measure, and then more recently a book called The Poppy Fields. And The Measure is about everybody in the world wakes up one day with a box at their door, and there's a string in there, and the length of the string is the measure of their life. And so they have to decide what they're going to do with that information. Some ultimately decide not to even open the box.
Right.
Some people take the box and won't let the other person see it. I mean, there's a lot of human behavior things in the book that is so interesting. But what is really interesting about the way she weaves and tells these stories is that the multiple characters going through this experience, there are these connections to each other that, like, oh, that was that person. It's just really interesting. And the thing about wanting connection and community is also so much a part of the current world that we're living in. And maybe it's because of AI too. We're moving so fast in so many crazy directions that I think bringing things back to just that sense of community. And I feel like that you are both doing an amazing job at that. But what I wanted to say is, I feel like when we kind of embrace that as how we want to show up, we find each other too.
Yes.
Like the fact that you invited me to that event, the fact that I'm sitting here now is because some frequency that I was vibrating at, you noticed, and I'm just so grateful for that.
And every single person we had at the event, we don't do any extensive marketing or any of that. And we've been in Florida for about 2 years. January will be 2 years. And, we have a life-changing, our own story and everything we both went through. And we got here, we didn't know anyone. We barely knew the city. So, I remember we went to a chamber event for the first time, and we were, doing our best to connect and rebuilding Marber security, and the authenticity journey wasn't even in place yet. It was just a faraway idea. And I think what I'm saying is everyone that we've brought to that event was one by one at a time. It was built relationships that it took us time and a few months, and, people we've met throughout the 2 years. And with you, I remember seeing a post of you at 1909 specifically. And you had this bright energy, very, very confident, and you had your sparkly mic. And you sounded very empowering. And, at first I didn't really know what you do. So I started researching you from that moment. That's just the moment I remember. So, you sounded very engaging. So, I would love to meet her. She sounds powerful, engaging, confident. So I'm drawn to that because I value that. I felt that also the authenticity, the way you express yourself is light. It's not coming from like a place of ego so it was. I loved that. So I started.
So you saw me. You saw me.
I saw you. So you bring that sparkle, that energy, right? That as you speak, and you are an amazing speaker. I
have a lot of enthusiasm,
but you shine.
But only because I'm doing what I love, right? Again,
Right.
this is not something. I'm blessed. I'm so blessed to have found this work, and so my enthusiasm comes across as genuine because it is. You can't fake this. You know what I mean? Right. And again, I want everybody to have the opportunity to feel this way, to find their purpose, to help their community, and this is how you can be every day.
And even though we've known you for a short period of time, you can see how much you're loved by the community and people in general. I went to one of your events that you invited me, and
for the Model Your Mission,
how appreciated you are, and how people speak highly about you, and how they love what you're doing and who you are as a person. And I think that's everything.
Yeah. But I do want to say, because this is the authenticity journey,
yes,
that I have tons of flaws, that I do get depressed, okay? I'm not always always happy. Life is hard. Life is real. Yes. And as much as I say I'm blessed and on the surface, I have all the things that are necessary to be happy, I lost my mom a year ago, that's real stuff. And so, I want to I like to put that out there for people, because I think too often, especially in this day and age of Instagram and all the social media, and so you get a visual and a perception of people that it's all the things that they're posting, and it's all pretty, and it's all fun, and it's all perfect. And it is not. And I am here to say that so that all of you, anybody out there that's suffering or struggling or having bad days, we all do. This is one of the things I said to the girls the other day. I said, I'm very nervous speaking to you, because I had never spoken to a group of young women. I've spoken in public and all of that, but I said, and I want you to know I'm nervous, because next time you get an opportunity, or when you get an opportunity to speak and you're nervous, that is not a reason not to do it. All of us get nervous. All of us have bad days. It's all okay. It's all part of the whole thing,
Yes, life is rough. Life is hard, and you're still going through, grief and everything. And I think that's something you can't really. You're going to feel as you move through life, right? And I know it must be really hard. I recently lost my grandmother.
Sorry.
And she was my everything. So I can imagine being your mom. It's hard. Because it's just knowing that person is no longer here physically, and but their essence is, so they still live in you. What I did when I lost my grandma, she empowered me. I'm even more attached to her than, unfortunately, I love my parents, but it's just my attachment to her. I see myself in her. Everything, like the way I speak, the way I put myself together, everything reminds me of her. So I felt empty. I felt as if I lost something that I couldn't replace. And it was really painful. It was the first time that I lost someone that it really felt overwhelming. And I'm sure that's what you felt. How do you deal with that emotion? So I started thinking of a box, and I started placing flowers. So, every day I want to live as she would live, and be exactly who she is. Through the struggles, she would still get dressed and show up and put her makeup on and be happy. Even, in her 80s, she would show up all the time, regardless of the challenges she had in life. So every single day I have this box, and I'll just place a flower into that box to make sure I fill it with flowers. So by bringing the best from her into my life. So I think that's a great way of
you're honoring her.
But what do you do to
Well, I was going to share
to
this.
manage that
This
feeling?
is I'm still in the kind of early stages of grief with my mom, and so I'm still processing it. But my father passed away about 13 years ago. And funny enough, again, through this community, through this work, through this vibration that I'm frequency on,
Yes.
I'm meeting people that are giving me messages, for lack of a better way to put it. So another wonderful person that I've met recently is a woman named Irma Hale. Her father was Reuben Hale, and he was a really well-known artist in West Palm Beach, and he created a lot of arts organizations. But one of his biggest works of art was the home that they lived in for 50 years. And so she now does tours of the home, and she tells stories about him. And the stories about him, for some reason, they remind me of my own father, because my father also he wasn't an artist, but he was a very creative person.
Right.
And I grew up in a house that was built in 1800 up in New England. And when he bought it, it was practically falling down. And over the course of really my entire childhood, he, by himself, pretty much rebuilt that house and built walls and laid, brick, and because it was we had 8 fireplaces in this house. And so he really was that person. And he, not so much me, but my sister, he taught her a lot of those skills. And so when Irma was sharing stories about things like this, and not only did he create that painting on the wall, but he wired this lamp, and he showed me how to wire the lamp. And it just made me think of my dad. And so she recently, just yesterday actually, she sent me an email. She said, "You asked me a question about my dad and why he loved women and thought women were so strong. And I didn't know the answer, but I talked to the woman that's been compiling all of his notes, and she said right away, she said, he knew he loved women and how strong and powerful they were on the day that you were born." And she said, "And I think that your father felt that the day you were born."
Wow.
And that I felt like that was just a message that was being given to me from my dad through her. And now, because it's been such a long period of time, I mean, I can get a little emotional about it, but I can mostly just feel really grateful that I'm here for that connection, and I put myself in that place to receive that information. And so because I agree with you, I mean, people, yes, unfortunately, life is not permanent, but people's impact and energy and the effect they have on you, that will always be. As long as you remember it and
you can
honor
keep
it.
that alive.
And honor it and keep it alive.
You keep
Absolutely.
it alive.
Mhm.
Yes.
And I think as we're growing up, one of the key components, at least for me, was experiencing someone who believed in me. So I think part of the empowering journey that Clara and I share is trying to empower others. And that comes to also being able to show that we believe in other people.
Mm-hmm.
Not just saying that you believe, but like actually finding the good and the potential in
Yes.
them
Mm-hmm.
and doing that. When I was in school in Costa Rica, growing up there, I was lazy. I was a lazy student. I didn't really put too much effort because it was too easy, so I was bored.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember in 5th grade, one of my teachers said, "You can do better."
I had one of those too.
So he said, "You could do better." And I'm like, huh. And my parents always told me to do great in school, but I think sometimes you need like an external, non-relative person to believe in you. And it doesn't have to be academic. It could be a sports. It could be anything. But I clearly remember that person, that teacher saying, "You could do better." And my academic career completely changed since that day. And not just academic, just the way that I conduct myself. Meaning, for the longest time, my favorite quote has been, "Believe in yourself and you'll be unstoppable."
Mm-hmm.
So as we're having conversations about, helping the younger generation, empowering others to me equals trying to find a way to communicate that they can do it. They got this.
Mm-hmm.
Because life gets harder as we get older.
Mm-hmm.
When we're younger, we
Yeah.
don't have too much to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
As we get older, there's more stuff. There is more complications, more challenges to navigate. I don't like to call it problems. I like to call it challenges because that way we could navigate them. But I would love to hear, who empowered you as you were growing up.
Well, I mean, I don't want to steal your story, borrow your story, or copy your story, but it was a teacher. And for me, it was, and I just was telling the girls this the other day, it was my sophomore year high school English teacher. And same thing. She said the same thing. She actually said it to my parents during parent-teacher conference. She said, she's way smarter than what she's putting out there, and I don't know if it was because I respected her so much that I thought I want to impress her, or I want to live up to what she sees in me. But that was it. I mean, literally changed my life, that teacher. Now, would something else have happened? Maybe. We don't know. It's a wonderful life. We'll never know. Right. But yeah, I think that you're so right that as adults and as parents, we have a lot of opportunity to influence our children, but we can influence generations and multiple kids. And so believing in them, it's so important. And and this is a lot of what I talk about with the nonprofit work that I do. So many children are born perfect. Children are born beautiful. They're born brilliant. They're born kind. And then it's all the stuff that happens to them along the way.
Their upbringing.
And so it's that potential. If every child could reach that full potential that is there in them on the day they're born, imagine the world we could live in.
Yep.
And that's part of what I try to do in my small way.
Having someone that believes in you is everything.
Mm-hmm.
But in my case, I also believe in the opposite at times because my empowerment side of actually loving to empower others or even empowering myself came from misery, actually. So it's I didn't really have anyone empowering me. And my parents, as growing up, they had a challenging relationship, lots of fights and it was not a very healthy environment. And as I grew older, I myself ended up in an abusive relationship for 9 years, which I would call living in misery. And throughout that time, I've had that out in podcasts, the entire story, right? It's a long story. But throughout that time that I was living through that misery, which was many years of my life, and I became physically ill, and, it affects everything. I remember feeling very defeated, miserable at times. But I think the feeling was so deep of not feeling empowered or, being destroyed or in that destructive environment at all times that I could have thought the worst about myself. I could have, lowered my self-esteem and just literally died, which I felt that I was dying many times. I just knew for a fact there was nothing else in me. I was just dead because when you're in an abusive relationship, and I'm talking about real abuse in all levels, you can die. Like your soul starts dying. But instead, through my healing practices and, I became very passionate about yoga and spirituality while still living that relationship. I actually, even though my life was miserable at home, I went out and I started empowering and actually making a change in people's life. Because I knew everything I did not want to be. So think about you're in an environment with someone very miserable, destructive, abusive, and you don't want to be that person because what happens is when you're in an environment that's so destructive, you start becoming destructive.
Right.
So I knew I did not want to be that. So I actually started empowering and doing the complete opposite. And that kept me alive. I just reminded every single day the life within me, how I am worth it and how, I can be powerful, how I can, have self-love and believe in myself. So it's just a little bit different, but it was coming from misery. I was able to turn that into empowerment for myself, even though it's not usually how it goes. So as you talk about, kids, they are born brilliant. They're amazing. But then the environment they grow in, you don't know how living with their parents and how they grew up or and as adults, people go through relationships and things that can really impact the way they see themselves. For me, I just shifted into the opposite and that was a huge change. And I think that's why I have this passion of empowering people and bringing them back from the worst places, because I do that to myself. I did it for years. I still do, right? Yeah. I'm not a perfect human. Yeah. I think most people know nowadays. It's just I have my own challenges, but I bring myself back each time. And I think that gives me that passion of empowering, right? It's just, you know how it feels to be defeated, to fall apart. And it's so nice when you're able to bring people back, bring that sparkle back.
And I think you did the most difficult thing while you were in that relationship. While you were going through all those challenges, you had to find a way to empower yourself so that you could empower others.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, I don't think anyone can empower others necessarily unless you put yourself together and you get out of bed. Like if you're not getting out of bed, you're not empowering anyone.
You have to. I remember those days crawling how am I going to get out of bed? How am I even going to show up? Because you just sleep deprived, there's no sleep, there's no peace, there's no, words of positivity. It's really, you're just destroyed, and then look at yourself, you look miserable, like you just, or maybe you've cried so much and all you see is the worst. So you have to really, really, really find inner strength right deep in that pain to bring yourself back, because no one will bring you back. In my case, I was just alone and didn't have my family close to me. So those were many, many years. So it's almost knowing that you have to really dig deep inside. That's why I was saying, you've never been into my yoga practices. They're a little bit different. I speak throughout the whole time, very spiritual. It's about going deep into our misery, into ourselves, because it's the place we avoid, because it just hurts. It's a mess in there. Everything is just dark. So I talk a lot about death, dark places, and misery, but it may seem weird at times, but it's actually because it has to do with my story and everything I went through. But that's, to me, that's not a place of destruction. That's actually a place that you embrace. You go deep inside and you come back. You find light right there where you avoid the most when you're about to fall apart. And I'm talking about like falling apart, being on the ground, falling apart, situations where people don't see, right? Things that people have no idea you've gone through that or that. So we are able to empower ourselves by going into that place where it's just really painful.
I'm so happy that you were able to do that, and I'm so happy that you're here now, because you're part of my life, and you're part of changing other people's lives, and certainly through sharing that story and sharing as you do with others in yoga and other ways. That's going to hopefully empower them. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I often think of so many things as the flip side of the same coin, light and dark, yin and yang. I mean, really, we have all of it. And I think it's beautiful what you said, that to embrace even the darkest parts of ourselves is actually to somehow shine our brightest light as well. And I think that gosh, I feel like really isn't that maybe the definition of authenticity too, because we can't just think about all the perfect things. We have to be honest about the things that have been hard and have shaped us in the way that, and I guess, my wish for the world is that everybody can have that strength somehow. We talk a lot about, somebody had asked me recently, is it nature or is it nurture? And, were you born with it? Was it how you were raised? I think I always say there's a third thing. There's nature, there's nurture, but then there's your spirit. And that spirit is not defined or touched by your DNA or your upbringing. It's just something inside you. And unfortunately, I don't know that all of us necessarily can always see it. But when you can use that to raise yourself up away from what you were born with or how you were raised.
But when we can't, there's people like you, that brings empowerment, some level of leadership, empowering others and actually caring. And I see that, that's something you do. And that's one of the reasons why I reached out to you, because when I see someone empowering, I value that. It doesn't matter, what level of empowerment it is that they're bringing, but then there's value. I think you supporting the nonprofits and you're supporting, all those charities and connecting donors into donating to these amazing projects that are life changing. That's a beautiful journey. I think that's a beautiful journey, and I truly value. I think it's impactful, and you are, it wouldn't happen if you were not doing it, right? Someone needs to connect both worlds so that change can be made. So.
And just like I was saying, giving brings me happiness. If I can empower or give a young person or anybody a sense of value and confidence, that makes me feel great. That makes me feel like I have a purpose, right? And so I think it's all a virtuous cycle, And something I was going to say earlier, where you were sharing, and thank you for sharing your story. It's the law of attraction, right? Too. It's like what you put out is what you get back. And I think that's why, as I was saying earlier, I feel like with the work I'm doing, I'm so fortunate to be meeting so many amazing people, because those are the people that I'm meeting in this world through this journey, through what I'm putting out. It's bringing those people into my sphere. So it's about, doing what you said. What you did is be even. And somebody asked me, like, what do you do when you are in a bad spot? And I said, well, sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. And I felt like bad that I said that in a sense, like is that inauthentic? But
No.
but it's not.
It's not.
It's like you said, like sometimes you've got to get out of that bed and you got to put the makeup on and you got to, not you, but
Yes,
and then, it just kind of snaps into place again, and rather than sitting in that negative space.
It's authentic. You have to fake a little until you make it. But it sounds weird, but it's not.
It's not faking. It's
not faking. It's
the other thing I always used to say. Self-actualization is a big thing that I've always said is like my goal in life, right? And I define it as the person that you are is the same as the person that you want to be, is the same as the person that everybody else sees you to be. If you can get all three of those things in alignment, you are going to be on a very happy track. Now, I think that's kind of the goal of your entire life. I don't know that anybody actually ever gets it, or maybe you get moments of it, right? And then you go back to being a mess, or me being a mess. But when you are actually, so the fake it till you make it is not so much like be somebody you're not. You're sort of like, I know I am this person. I'm not acting like that person right now that I am. So let me kind of act like the person I know I can be. And then, that's the person I'll be.
And it comes into a reality.
Exactly.
It does.
Exactly.
You create your reality. So it's not faking.
No.
What is it that you want to be? Then act like it.
I
Make it
call
happen.
it future truth.
I love that. I'll use that.
Truth, yeah.
I used to read more than I read now. And I read a lot of books until I found out that I was a knowledge junkie and I was reading a lot but not putting a lot into practice. So I switched to being more of a practitioner on that, maybe like 5 years ago or so. But to me, the future truth, they fake it until you make it. I understand that as well. But the main thing is, for me, is my future self proud of what I'm doing today? Is my future self proud of my decisions today? And the future self could be a year from now, could be 10 years from now. So when I hear competition that we're competing with, like, fiction, like social media and all that stuff, I like to compete with my future self. So are we going in the path that we're supposed to be going? And of course, we all have different beliefs on, spirituality, religion, God, and all of that stuff. But to me, the most important thing is being a good person, going in that path, trying to help others, but above all, making my future self proud of who I am today. So this fake it until you make it, it's definitely a great approach. And, we can see it in different ways. I just see it of, is my future self proud of what I did today?
I love that. I'm going to use, can I borrow that? That's
so
great.
Let's start acting like our future self.
The future that we want to be.
Yes, why not, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Lisa, what would you share of course you've shared lots of wisdom today, but what would you share, a phrase or a word or would you share with the next generation to empower them from what you know about life today, from where you are in life today, from who you are today? What can you share that's, very quick that will be life impacting and someone who's watching and maybe they desire, to do the same thing as you're doing now, giving and connecting others into giving. What would you share with them?
Really listen to your heart. Really say, does this make me happy or not? I'll give a funny, quick example. I was, because I go to a lot of events, and there was one event, and I thought, do I really want to go to this? And I'm like, no. So I actually started keeping a tally. I'm like, no. And then later on, I'm like, I think actually it's going to be a lot of fun. I think I do want to go. So yes. And I kind of kept this tally of kind of tuning into how did I really feel about going. And ultimately the yeses won and I went. But it's about really being able to be authentic with yourself of what is it that you really want. And then following that instinct. Follow your instincts. Listen to your heart. Listen to your inner voice. It's telling you something for a reason. It's there. It's true. And it's important.
No, that's amazing. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think the heart tells everything, right? Even when it beats, you can feel it. What is it that's telling
And this is just noise, right? I mean, there's a lot of important stuff that goes on up here, like, AI, brain. But there's a lot of noise in the ego and the brain part of it all, too. So you got to kind of like know that there's just some nonsense happening there.
I always say that a mind that likes confusion is a mind that likes life.
Yeah.
So the noise is life. I mean, if there's noise in your mind right now, if there's confusion, if it's overwhelming, just know that you are alive. That's a gift. If you're not having that confusion, you're probably not alive. You probably
you're
won't
probably
even identify.
living a very controlled sort of,
Yes.
Yeah.
And life is not controlled.
No.
We can't control the next moment, the next second. We can't control anything. Actually, we make plans, but that's why I always say I move with the flow. He doesn't agree, but he agrees and does it. But it's because, but it's a balance too, right? If I just move with the flow.
Well, and I know we've said before we came on that, I think your relationship is similar to mine, and it's true. I mean, my husband is a very great ballast, if you will, for my running all over doing a million things, and so it's a great balance, and yeah, that's important to have balance too. So yeah,
that's true. That's true. Is there anything else you would like to share? I think you've shared the upcoming project for the LaFrance.
Oh, I'm so excited about that. Well, definitely LaFranceProject.com is my website. Sign up for my newsletter so that you can see when these events are happening. We haven't scheduled those events yet. Well, the first one is going to be a private event, and then the public event will probably be in late April, early May. But I do a newsletter. It's not on a specific cadence. I sort of, when I feel like I have something to say, I say it. Otherwise, I don't think anybody's going to read it. It's too many newsletters, too many emails, too much information out there, too much noise. But in my newsletter, I will be sharing more information about these different events that I'm working on and other projects. Part of the project. So if you want to stay in the know, go to the website, sign up for the newsletter, and follow me on social media too, because I'm on there pretty much almost every day, and we're doing some fun things and talking to some interesting people. So
absolutely.
Yes.
And
thank you.
If there's anyone out there that's listening and would like to, give, to donate, but it's feeling overwhelmed, not knowing how to do it, when to do it, and looking for someone who they can trust.
Call me. Yeah. Seriously, no, email. I will. I said that in my last newsletter. It's on my website. Half-hour consultation. Happy to do it. On my website, I actually have a page that lists the 9 organizations that I do support on a monthly recurring basis with buttons if you want to click and check them out. But I'm happy to have a conversation because I think it also, for many people, it's about connecting to the thing you're passionate about. Right. So for you, you spoke about, well, you shared your story, but you spoke earlier about domestic violence. Yes. And there's a lot of organizations in the community that are doing great work in that. So I'm look forward to sharing more with you specifically about that. But it's sort of having that conversation with somebody to figure out the thing they care most about, and then helping them figure out how they can make a difference in that space.
Yes, what brings meaning into their lives, right?
Exactly.
Because I'm sure they would like to donate and to give into something that resonates with them, that brings them purpose, meaning.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I think it comes back to what you said about listening to your heart. It comes to organizations or individuals giving with purpose, but also giving with alignment on things that they see that are important to them. So definitely, I'm matching that to like giving with the heart.
Absolutely.
So as we
bring it around,
as we close the podcast today, as we end, let's stay with listening to our hearts, right? Give it with our hearts, as Lisa said. I think that's a beautiful statement that you brought in today, and let's just keep moving with the heart.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Lisa,
Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure, to have you, and we love your energy. And yes, can't wait to see you again. Thank you. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.